So, as I mentioned in my review earlier, Space Babies was okay. It was mad, but of the two episodes we actually got yesterday, I think my favourite of the two is the second episode, The Devil's Chord. The second episode of Doctor Who's 14th series, or first season of the new batch, and here we are with it. Now, aboard the TARDIS, Ruby Sunday, played once again by Millie Gibson, she asks Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor if they can go back to 1963 to watch the Beatles record their first ever album. To which, while the Doctor at first seems like he's going to say no to it, he's like, really? He quickly gets on board saying, I don't know why I've never done this, let's go! To which we also see them don some outfits in order to fit in properly with the 1960s, with the Doctor getting a fancy new up hairdo and putting on a blue pinstripe suit. It's kind of a blue version of what David Tennant was wearing back in the 2000s. Meanwhile, Ruby gets a black and white outfit with shoulder pads and a beehive head. And off they go to Abbey Road Studios in 1963. Now, at this point in time, as EMI recording studios. However, they quickly find something's not quite right. Because they end up watching the Beatles recording their first album with Paul McCartney, played by George Capel, John Lennon, played by Chris Mason, Ringo Starr, played by James Hoyles, and George Harrison, played by Philip Davies. But there's no passion to their music. The passion seems to have gone, as the band seems to play a song about their dog. And that's it. They just really say, I've got a dog, I've not got a cat, I've got a dog. And they just find it very odd that all the passion has gone. They try going to another room in the recording studios where they watch Cilla Black, played by Josie Sedgwick Davies, also record an album, and find that the passion's gone from her music as well. Eventually they find that pretty much no one plays music anymore, and when they try asking Paul McCartney and John Lennon what's going on about it, men just go, yeah, well, we'll ride it out for as long as we can, but after that, turn home to Liverpool and get a proper job. Which they can't seem to understand. So, Now, actually, before I continue on, I remember reading an article somewhere that said, with part of an interview with Rusty Davies, where he said, the problem with doing an episode based around the Beatles is that you can't use Beatles music. I mean, the copyright's far too expensive. So then they come up with an idea of how exactly do you make an episode involving the Beatles without using Beatles music? And honestly, I think they do pretty well with it. But anyway, to try and figure out what's going on, the Doctor has a group of workmen take a piano up to the roof of EMI Records, or EMI Recording Studios, and he asks Ruby to play it, saying that he knows that Ruby plays the keyboard. So Ruby starts to play, and to be honest, I think it would have been all too easy to just have her play one note and then the villain arrives. But I think they did the right thing here by letting her play the music, and you get to see how people react to it. I mean, the Doctor just standing up on a set of crates, just overlooking the city, but just him listening to Ruby play the piano, it's quite beautiful. I mean, you see people from nearby buildings just opening up their windows just to listen to Ruby play, to which apparently an interesting fact about this is that they show a shot of one elderly woman by her window, and apparently that was the woman who knitted Tom Baker's scarf back in the 70s. Yeah, who knew? Which we see the people listen to her music and appreciate it and start to like it, but then we get the introduction of the big new villain of Doctor Who, Maestro, played by RuPaul's Drag Race star Jinx Monsoon. Now, we knew that Jinx Monsoon was going to be appearing in Doctor Who for a while, and then we saw the costume, them revealing their costume kind of on TikTok and the like. And when it was ultimately revealed that their villain's name was going to be Maestro, I had my cheeks clenched for a minute, because I was really hoping against hope that Jinx Monsoon wasn't going to be a new interpretation of the Master. Maestro wasn't the latest version of the Master. I mean, they did it with Missy, changing the name slightly, but here's the thing. If Jinx Monsoon had been the Master, no doubt I probably would have come to accept it and would have been like, okay, we've got another version of the Master here, let's see what we're dealing with. But I personally think, like the Daleks, the Master has been a bit overused in the last few years, so I just felt the Master needed a bit of a break. I mean, we know they have to come back sometime because the Toymaker's tooth that the Master was trapped in was taken at the end of the giggle. So we know they're coming back at some point. Thankfully, though, it seems that Russell T Davies had a similar mindset, as he has also said that the Master is going to be parked up for a while, like the Daleks. And Maestro is actually a brand new villain for Doctor Who, and you know what? I'm okay with that. They are linked to a previous villain, but you know what? I'm fine with that. It turns out that Maestro is a descendant of the Toymaker, and is a member of the Toymaker's Legion. We remember at the end of the 60th anniversary story, The Giggle, the Toymaker, as he was being banished, said, "My legions are coming." To which Maestro is a member of the Toymaker's Legion. And Maestro has power over all music. Like, they want to take music away, they want to extract music and leave pretty much everybody miserable. This does lead to one of my small problems with the episode. I mean, it's not a big thing, but when the Doctor and Ruby briefly try hiding from Maestro, the Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver to create a moment of silence, complete silence. And I was left thinking for a few seconds, I was left thinking for about a minute, okay, have I gone deaf, or has my TV broken, or what's happening? To which, thankfully, the sound did eventually come back in. Now, I moved past it a bit too quickly, but Ruby playing the piano on the rooftop, I felt was supposed to possibly be a nod back to the Beatles' final concert from 1969 at 3 Savile Row. But anyway, Maestro does actually prove to be a rather frightening villain, because they were eventually summoned by a piano teacher from, I think, back in the 1920s, but I can't be sure of that, who was teaching a student some of the music, and to try and make things a bit more interesting, told them about the Devil's Chord, a set of notes which eventually summoned them. It turns out the child he was teaching was called Henry Arbinger. H. Arbinger. Harbinger. And of course now wants control over all music. However, Ruby tries pointing out to the Doctor that Maestro can't take away music, can't destroy music, because she's from 2024. She knows music still exists. To which the Doctor takes Ruby back to present day 2024, and they see that London has been devastated. Nuclear war. Basically, without music, no peace. People went to war over the smallest things, and London and the entire world is now devastated. To which we get another moment from Maestro here, kind of taunting the Doctor, to which I felt was kind of reminiscent of Neil Patrick Harris's moment in the toy shop, kind of telling Donna about the various companions of the Doctor. Well, that's all right then. I kind of felt that moment with Maestro here, with them manipulating reality to kind of explain the story of what happened, which I thought was kind of cool. And towards the end, when the Doctor and Ruby are trying to use the Beatles piano to find the kind of antidote to the Devil's Chord so they can send Maestro back, I like how they get quite close, which Maestro says to them that, oh, there's no chance of finding it. A genius would take to find it, which the Doctor said, I don't claim to be a genius, but I've been around and you learn quite a lot. Which he nearly gets it, but of course not quite. And when Maestro is kind of capturing the Doctor and Ruby and sealing them inside a cello and inside a drum, it's quite heart-bending stuff, just seeing their complete control over music and how they can use it to bring about the end of the Doctor and Ruby. But then the Beatles finding the piano outside the studio and the first few notes of the Devil's Chord antidote set up, that they're the ones who ultimately find the cure for it and banish Maestro. I'm okay with that. I love that essence. To which, as Maestro is being banished once again from existence, they say the one who waits is still coming. To which, who is the one who waits? I don't know yet, but I'm going to say for the time being that the one who waits is Kang the Conqueror, mainly because maybe I'm just thinking of the one he who remains, but that's kind of what I get from the one who waits, he who remains. I kind of think they sound similar. You can definitely tell with this particular episode there was a distinct hand of Disney in there, along with the last bit, which I'll come up to in a second. But anyway, Maestro is banished, music returns to the world, and everything seems happy, to which the Doctor then says to Ruby, the one thing you need to know about travelling with me, there's always a twist at the end. Which leads us into the big musical moments, the end of the episode, where we see the Doctor, Ruby, Cilla Black, and the Beatles, and everyone else dancing along to a song, especially a written song for the episode, There's Always a Twist at the End, which also contains two cameos that I'll be honest, I noticed one of them. I didn't notice the other until I came back later. Because once we see everybody kind of dancing along and the Beatles playing their own version, we then see the Doctor and Ruby in a corridor dancing with a load of other dancers. And one of them, the one with long hair and a red jumper, I looked at them and thought, hold on a minute, is that Johannes Radaba? To which I later looked it up. I looked up Johannes Radaba Doctor Who, found out it actually was him, yeah. And then I also saw in the same article that Shirley Ballas was also in this episode. I was like, what? Really? And so I went back and looked at that dance scene and saw Johannes on one side, and then the other looked at the woman on the other side and was like, yeah, that is Shirley. To which my family and I, we're big fans of the BBC dance competition Strictly Come Dancing. I don't talk about it much on this channel because, well, there wouldn't really be much to talk about other than kind of complaining about who goes home each week. But, yeah. But just to have Johannes Radaba and Shirley Ballas in a Doctor Who episode dancing and singing with Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson, that to me, I absolutely love that. Just, it's a fun song at the end of the episode, but with it being so kind of bright and colourful and bouncy, you can definitely feel the hand of Disney in here. But Doctor Who's on Disney Plus now, so Disney does get a small say in things that go on. But you know what? If we're gonna get scenes like that, I'm okay with it. I absolutely love the musical minute in this episode. So as I said, with the first two episodes, Space Babies and the Devil's Chord, I think I much prefer the Devil's Chord. The Devil's Chord so far in Doctor Who is my favourite episode of Series 14, although we're only 2 episodes in, so who can tell from there. But yeah, I personally feel the Devil's Chord is a hell of a lot of fun and a great way. It wasn't the first episode of Series 14 or Season 1, but to me, they're starting off on a high with this. Anyway, the episode coming up next week is titled Boom. Yeah, what do I think of that? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, until Boom comes around, see ya.